So we've got one more line up now for the clean screens, this time for the Atari Lynx. This works on the Lynx 2 and the Lynx 1. I originally designed it on the Lynx 2 and it does actually just drop into the Lynx 1. We sell this as a kit on retro6.co.uk as well as all of our worldwide distributors. We sell this as a complete kit which comes with everything here for the Lynx 2, including the screen bracket. And if you want it for the Lynx 1, similarly we sell a kit which comes with the screen, the clean screen itself and the bracket. And I will make a LCD ribbon for the Lynx 1 as well, but until then you just wire it. So let's just see how you install this. The Lynx 2 is completely solder free, so we'll just show you that first, and then we'll take a look at the Lynx 1. So we've moved this stuff out the way for a moment. We'll start with the Lynx 2 I have here, just one I use for testing. Ignore the bezel being missing, we'll currently be making those so we can have some nice new bezels soon. And you want to first make sure you have a Lynx that works. So to do that, just go to retro6.wiki, go to the Atari Lynx 2, and go to Safe Boot as where I'd start. This is how you confirm your Lynx is safe to run, which basically means before you go simply applying 9 volts to the console and potentially burning the console out, this is the safest way to confirm your 5-volt regulation works. If you want more information on that, I've completely reverse engineered the entire power circuit in a lot of detail. So if you wanted to fully test and understand how the buck converter and the entire circuit works on the Atari Lynx, again, just go to the wiki. So there's absolutely bucket loads of information here, repairs, diagnostics, even open sourcing how this clean screen works. I've wrote down all the notes, how the entire screen operates, and you can read all about it on here if you're interested. So this was all the reverse engineering done when I actually made the clean screen. And like I say, I pretty much open source everything nowadays, so you can learn from this, you can ask me questions, you can do what you like with this information. So presuming you have your Lynx all working, you simply strip it down. What I would do on these, once it's all working, if you're going to mod a clean screen, is make sure to remove this inductor here. So on the Lynx 2, it's the inductor just above here, which you can see. That's the backlight high voltage driver. If you leave this on, it's not going to do any damage, but if you accidentally touch around here, there's many points where you can accidentally touch. Down here, it will literally burn your finger through with 1000 volts, and it's quite painful. There's no need to have that on, so I would just remove that inductor and keep it safe if you ever wanted to reinstall it. If you don't have a soldering iron, you can just wiggle it free gently until it snaps. And if you do have a soldering iron, just desolder the 2 legs. I've quickly just soldered on a USB wire here to ground and the battery positive spring. And that's 5 volts, obviously. That's just a quick way to safe boot. And then I can plug it into a USB meter so I can see the current draw. And let's just confirm this console does indeed work. So I'll put Batman in. I'll connect a speaker up. And let's just plug this in. There won't be a power switch because bypassing the power regulation circuit bypasses obviously the turning on and off button. So this just comes on instantly. Games take a little while to load, so give it a few seconds and you can hear this one's running. So we know this is a good console. And now it's time to chuck in the clean screen. We'll actually start with the front. So make sure your button ribbon is nice and clean and all these edges look okay. If they don't, you can just trim a small piece off here with scissors to get rid of the missing carbon and get it fresh again. And if that fails, we sell these on Retro 6 again, brand new button ribbons. Take your screen bracket and your clean screen board. The clean screen board comes with a set of screws. And all we want to do is get our IPS screen. Make sure it's got our logo on so you know it's not a counterfeit or third-party one that may or may not work. You're free to try ones, but if they don't work, then obviously you're not going to have much luck. This should fit snug in the bracket, literally slides in and locks in, like that, and that's not coming out. And then turn it over with the ribbon coming out the same side as the button ribbon. It should locate on these stumps where the original screws were and lock in tight. And once it's in place, it won't fall out. And one thing you'll notice is the slight metal cage visual here. So you can see you have a metal cage to the left and right that just slightly shows through the plastic. And I'll show you how to get rid of that. So you have one option, and that is to simply put some black tape down the sides like this so you can't see the edges. The other option I prefer, and this is not really dangerous as long as you're just nice and careful, and I just use my fingernails. If you've got the slightest bit of fingernail, you can do this instead. If we look on the edge here, there's just clips around the front. And just get your fingernail under here to lift this off. So you can see slightest bend, it's nice and soft. Not hard at all to lift up. So once you've lifted them two up like that, you tend to find you lift this one up and the whole thing starts to come off. And after that, just gently remove the cage. And with that off, you see you have a nice shiny black edge. So the place to be careful of is here. This is where it makes connection with this ribbon, and that's the point of that frame to protect that. So do this last right before you're about to install. And when it's in, you can see now that's just got black edges and not silver anymore. With that done, get our CleanScreen, place it over so that the holes line up with the screw holes in the 3D bracket and effectively the original case, and just secure the CleanScreen board in place. With that in, let's just turn it around. And now we want to connect the LCD ribbon up to the LCD connector, like so. And then if you did buy the button ribbon, you can connect the original button ribbon into here, and this ribbon into our connector and back into the console. And if you didn't buy the ribbon, then just leave this one out and connect it to the console. You won't be able to use the on-screen menu, but everything else will work fine. As we are going to do the full install, we will connect the original button ribbon into our connector here. So just line it up central and then push in. And you can see that's in neat now. And you might find it easier to install this button ribbon before you screw down the CleanScreen. It's depending on your preference. If you struggle, just take out the screws and connect this first. In a similar fashion, we want to connect this ribbon here. So line it up in the center and then just push. And it slides in fine like that. So if you get the Lynx now and you place it where it would be, you can sort of see that it's going to be there. Lift it up and rotate up. That's your working position. And now just connect the speaker. You can connect the button ribbon by pushing in. They do have the lift up tabs, but you can just push through and it goes in fine. I've seen no issues so far doing this. Same for the ribbon. Get the LCD ribbon facing up towards the top. Insert it into the LCD connector and just give it a firm push. I find this tends to be easier than lifting these bales, inserting, then trying to latch and everything moves. It just adds a bit more friction, but I've, like I say, done this countless times with no issue. So if you feel comfortable doing that, there's no need to mess with lifting and setting these bales. The final thing to the whole install is to simply connect this LCD ribbon. So lift the latch on here and place the LCD ribbon into the connector like so. And make sure it's in and then latch down this connector. And what I recommend to do at this point is just get some electrical tape and place it over the LCD ribbon here, just to keep it flat a little bit. Because what you'll tend to find is, because this is a much softer connection than this, when you're moving this around, you'll tend to pull it out of this bale. So if you just kind of leave it taped down there, nice and easy, you find that that's not going to move. And then all you've got to do, you can see you've got plenty of room to work here. There's no awkward angles or short ribbon cables. This is a nice, usable and workable area to, move around with. You can now just turn it over, close it down, and obviously screw together your console. I'll just put the back on this one for now. So just plug this into the 5-volt power. And games take a short while to load, like 3 or 4 seconds. And there you can see Batman. Let's get the studio lights down a bit. And you can see there's Batman loaded fine. If you want to get in the menu, you just hold A, B, and left. And now left and A are like left and right. And B is to get into menu. So you can go into menu, put on pixel grids, turn off pixel grids, go into color modes. You could have a desaturated, more natural look. You could have the original look. You could have grayscale. You've got a bunch of modes on here. If you want any specific color mode as well in future, let me know and I can add them. Got VGA out, which allows you to do RGB and HDMI mods nice and easily for a few pounds using the basic VGA to HDMI adapters. And you've got true motion just like the GBA, which is by default on, that supports transparency flicker. And that's really all there is to the install. You'll notice we don't have the brightness wheel because this is the solder-free install. So if you want to do the brightness wheel, if we just head over to the Lynx to schematics, I'll show you how you'd find this information out yourself. You just click on the schematic, zoom in to the contrast wheel, which is down here. Move the mouse to the right edge of the screen to scroll up and down. And you can see R46 and R47 here need removing so that this contrast wheel is isolated from effectively the 20 volt plus rail here. Now we have removed L17 in this case, but still you want to remove these resistors for safety. You can also see on the board here, it tells you what to do. So you have backlight wheel, remove R46 and 47, that's for the Lynx 2. And then you've got or, you can just have backlight always on here. So this switch here, as you can see, was on, keeps the backlight on. It acts as a good test as well, so if you're not sure if your contrast wheel's working, you can just flick this on and have a fixed brightness. So I'm going to turn that off now because we're going to wire it to the brightness wheel instead. And we need to remove our 46 and 7 and just add 2 wires here. The kit comes with the 2 wires that are the perfect size to go to the contrast wheel as well. And the resistors we need to remove are quite clearly right by the contrast wheel, are 46 and 47. So let's just quickly take off R46 and 7. And I'd highly recommend doing this with a soldering iron, not a hot air gun, because you'll melt this. But if you're confident you can do it with your hot air station, you know what you're doing, then it's quicker to just hot air them off. But again, unless you're very confident, just use a soldering iron for this stage, you will melt the wheel. So that's those 2 off, and now we can solder to the wheel. So the points you want to solder to are this and this point here, or if you want it to be easier, you can just solder to this and this here, so these 2 pads. Just for cleanliness and keeping the wires all in the same area, I'm going to solder carefully to these here. Again, I'd only recommend doing this side if you are confident with soldering, otherwise you will again melt the wheel. So just base your install preferences on your skill level. If you don't want to solder at all, use the flick switch. If you want to solder but you're not 100% confident, just use the pads on the back. And if you're nice and confident, then just solder here for the neatest job. So there's the 2 wires attached there. And then back on the clean screen, I'm just going to pre-tin both of them pads. Make sure this switch is off. And just tack the 2 contrast wheel wires to the board. And with those on, there's nothing left to do now except close this back down. Let's put the back on. And just double check. We still have a working console, now with brightness control. So that's turning on. Give it a few seconds to load the game. And you can see now we have a brightness wheel. And very loud audio. So there's the wheel. And that's all there is to installing it in the Lynx 2. Super simple, solder-free install, maintenance is nice and easy. It's fully reversible if you like. And this screen is fully integer scaled, which means the pixels are not stretched, they're exactly the same size as the original. The colours represent the original console nice and accurately, they're not oversaturated. So everything you'd expect from a clean screen, it's as original as possible. As I mentioned, I'm about to make these bezels so we can have some nice clean lenses. But for now, that's the Lynx 2 one done. And I won't bore you too much with the exact same install all over again for the Lynx 1, but I will show you how we do this. So if you go to retro6.wiki and Atari Lynx, scroll to the bottom, I've done a nice easy visual pin out here because the original schematic's quite hard to read. So you get a Lynx 1, you take off the 2 fuses, the backlight and the screen like normal. Flip over, and in this case, instead of removing just the inductor, I've gone ahead and removed the entire backlight driver module as a whole, so I could always reinstall this at a later date. This is again the high voltage generator. You really do want to take this off. It could risk sending high voltages into your screen if something goes wrong, and you could also zap yourself. There's no need to keep this on. So remove that. Do the safe boot test on the wiki, the same thing. Make sure you're getting regulated 5 volts before you continue. And you can power this from USB if you like, or from bench. Or if you know the system fully works and you just want to power it straight from your 9 volt and you're confident you've checked that the 5 volt rail works, just power up the console like normal. The install is just as simple. To check what resistors you need to remove, just go on the wiki, open up the schematic, go to the backlight circuit, and you can zoom in to the contrast wheel here. And you can see quite clearly you need to remove R34 and R59. So 34 and 59. And you can see right here we have R34 there and R59 here. So it's this resistor and this one. And again, soldering iron and be careful not to melt the wheel. So the best way to tackle this is definitely not hot air. Soldering iron with a curved tip, line flat. Go under the wheel here and sort of cover the resistor sideways and rub left and right to remove. The other one's the most tricky because it's right in between a cartridge connector and the wheel. But what I find is if you're getting at this angle, making sure not to touch here and here. You can do it like that. And it is tricky, but you can just about see in there, the resistor's now off and gone. So if you don't want to do that for the contrast wheel, then you can obviously just use the flick switch. And you can then attach your 2 wires to the left and the middle pin here. And because when we're installing the clean screen on this, here's the LCD ribbon, these pins are right by it anyway, so we'll just go straight here. And let's just take a step back now and get the screen in first. So grab your Lynx, strip it down, obviously leave your buttons in once you're ready to assemble. The bracket for the one looks slightly different, so it goes this way around in here. We'll take our screen again, and then this time you don't need to put this in first, you can put this bracket in first here. The screen then sits upside down, and similar fashion, wedges in there. The clean screen, you see I've gone ahead and attached a load of wires all off this side. This will all be replaced with an LCD ribbon that connects here once I've had time to make it. But this is a hand-wired install, and I'll show you how to do that now. So you install the board this way around. You can see the 2 screw holes there, one there, and this one just isn't needed. It's just to keep the clean screen in place. And it butts right up against here. Unscrew this in place. We've got that nice and secured now. And we do just like the Lynx too. Fold this down and connect. And due to the buttons here, this LCD ribbon will be slightly twisted. If you don't want this twisting, you can just unscrew these screws and let the board naturally be slightly tilted. But this honestly does no harm here. It's not over tensioned, still fits there fine. That's just how it is in order to support both Lynx and have it perfectly centered on both without the need for 2 screen kits or brackets. This little bit that you see here of white is covered when the lens is over. As you can see here from a clean screen we've already done, this sort of gets covered by this lens. So now, just like the Lynx 2, you can rest your console here. This is how I tend to work with this, sort of side by side. And all you need to do is read down here for the same pins that are on the retro6.wiki page here. So you can see we have H-Sync here. We also have it repeated several times, so you can pick H-Sync or H-Sync there or H-Sync there. You've got V-Sync, 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 so you can pick anywhere you want. The only ones that aren't repeated are the clocks. So you have clock A here, so clock A1, clock A2, and clock A3. Will link to clock 1, 2, and 3, so solder them to clock A's. And then the buttons, left, A, and B, will be soldered to the actual button pads. So in this case, all you have to do is look at left here, and it goes to this via here, so we'll just solder to there. A and B here, so you can see, go up, through, and to these 2 vias here. So we'll do wires to there. All of the wire install will be on retro6.wiki as an install guide shortly after this video. So I'll just show you how this looks all wired up. Okay, so let's review what we've done here then. We have the left pad over here going to left. We have the 2 backlight wires going to the backlight wire here, and obviously we would fold them in this way so we don't touch the buttons. We've made sure the backlight switch is off because we've wired to the actual backlight wheel. We have the A and B buttons. I've soldered to the A and the B vias here, which are basically A and B here, A and B here. I've used a bit of Kapton tape just so these don't move and get in the way of the rubber contacts when you're reassembling. and they go to the A and B pads here. Light off isn't an option on Lynx 1, it didn't have a light off button, a backlight button. Ground is obviously ground, and we've gone to the ground on the ribbon, you'll see in a moment. And one thing I forgot to mention is under here is the 5-volt wire, where it says Lynx 5 volts here. You want to solder to that and go to the 5-volt pin, which is the end of the LCD ribbon. So you just have to lift the LCD ribbon out the way for that and attach a wire. I'll probably move that sensibly to down here for the next revision. And then all of these after, which are H-Sync, clock 1, 2 and 3, V-Sync and the 4 data pins, are all on this LCD ribbon. So let's just take a look at those. We have clock A1 here, clock A2 here. Then I've used this H-Sync, which again repeats. Then I've done them all in a row, which is ground. And make sure you notice on this Lynx, there is a ground here, and this one is normally ground next to it, which you can see on the schematic. They're normally joined like this for grounds. And on some revisions like this one, they're not. So don't use the second ground. Use like pin 57 or pin 35 or pin 13. I'll update the schematic that VS2, in this case, is not actually always ground. So just use pin 13, 35 or 57. After that, we have clock A3 going to obviously clock 3. Then we have the data pins 1, 3, 0 and 2. Then we have the V-Sync next to that. And finally, the last one is the 5-volt. So all of this will be on retro6.wiki if you want the exact pinouts linked. But essentially, you've got all the pinouts there that match. Now I will make a ribbon that solders across all of these. Probably make a ribbon that goes to these as well. Once we've done a few more and we see that all the Lynx ones have the same test points in essence, I'll probably make an LCD ribbon here like the Lynx 2, and maybe a button ribbon that goes to these 3 and connects to the button input. But for now, Lynx 1 just requires a bit of soldering. I've then just reinstalled all the rubbers, make sure the wires go central, and fold this back over. Now, even though the bracket holds this in, there is a slight gap between the CleanScreen and this board. So you could, depending on how you're going to clean the screen, if you're going to push it and things, I'll probably wedge something between the CleanScreen and this opening here. I'll probably include some foam soon, once we've again established that most of these have all the same layout and that it's going to work. But for now, the bracket will hold it in place, but I'd recommend a little bit of foam or something just to keep everything staying down here, not lifting up. And then let's just plug this in and take a look. And you can see there again, if I can avoid the studio lighting, there's Batman. And the buttons work. Hold the menu options, and we get the same menu options. Let's go into a pixel grid. So you can see that's basically for the Lynx 1 as well. Now, you'll notice I've also taped the lens again. So I don't recommend taking that shield off for the Lynx 1 because you get light bleed at the edges shining through once it's in darkness. So just tape the edges black. What I'm going to do on the next batch of lenses is I'm going to get this frame actually coated in black. So by default, it's already black. But for now, I'd recommend just taping around in black electrical tape when using, the Lynx 1. The Lynx 2 is no issue. But again, I'd probably recommend taping because you'll see also the black underneath is quite reflective. So in light, it might also distract. So scratch that idea about removing the frame, probably just electrical tape for now until I make them black. So that's it for that one, guys. If you need any more help, jump on the Discord or go on our wiki page for more installs. But hopefully that shows you how to install the CleanScreen on the Lynx, and you guys can enjoy a new screen option for the Lynx for 2023. If you have any suggestions on improvements or feedback, as always, I'd love to hear that. So either comment in the video or again, jump on the Discord. So that's it for this one, guys, and I'll catch you in the next.